Welcome to BunniPhish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as BunniPhish on Ravelry, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Today is Thursday, the 30th of May, 2019. This is episode 42. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. So how have you guys been? It's been 2 weeks, and in that time I had a field trip and a family vacation, which you can see all sorts of information about in the daily vlogs. And I was really busy. And I did a fair bit of knitting. So let's get right into that. The Chaotic Neutral Mystery Knit Along officially ends tomorrow, which is probably when I'm going to be posting this. So I am going to actually show you my finished Chaotic Neutral, both of them, and ruin the surprise and all of that. So if you don't want to see what they look like, I will put a timestamp right at the bottom of the screen right now. It will say when to skip to so that you don't see the finished Chaotic Neutral. Okay, are you gone? I'm going to count down and then I'm going to show 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, just us ready to see it. So the Chaotic Neutral is the mystery knit along that I just did, and in the pattern there's two options: a cowl and a wrap. And these two items have the same stitch count, but this has been blocked aggressively. You can see they're lined up. So this has been blocked aggressively, and this was just kind of sat in some water, wrung out, and laid down. So the wrap I would recommend blocking aggressively. And this, it's got tassels. I really wanted to put tassels, one tassel. I wanted one tassel on my cowl just because, but I actually used all of the secondary color. I had maybe 8 inches left when I finished, and I had to cut out one repeat from the final secondary color section. So let's talk about the wrap first. So here's the wrap with its tassels. It has tassels on both ends, and it is 14 inches deep, I want to say, and 70 inches wide. It looks like this. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. So there is a this pattern right here. The secondary color is every other section, and then the mini skeins make up every other section. I think that this would be really cool done in Advent minis. How fun would that be? Like one full skein, a partial skein, one full skein that would run throughout. So you can see that black stripe, that black color goes throughout all the sections, and then the red is just in between, so that's about half a skein. I think it's so beautiful. I love this pattern, not just because it's mine. I think it looks really nice, and it could showcase off yarn in a variety of different ways. There are 6 different mini skeins which coordinate? No, that's not the right word. 6 correlate to 6 stitch patterns. So they each repeat 2 to 4 times throughout. I totally rolled a dice to figure out how many repeats and what color was coming next when I was designing this. And I can't get over how pretty it is. The yarn that I used in my sample is Cattails yarns. The main color that goes throughout is this beautiful variegated called Black Aja, which you guys know I'm obsessed with. And then the red is Red Aja. And then maybe I can show you a tassel and you can see all the colors. So all of the other colors are the other Aja colors. So there is yellow cream, not cream, it's a creamish color, but it's white aja. So yellow aja, white aja, blue, green, brown, and gray. It's so beautiful. I couldn't be more pleased with how this came out. And then I made my hand spun version and I made the cowl. So I don't have finished measurements, but I didn't block it aggressively. I think it's probably still about 60 to 70 inches circumference, but it's definitely, it didn't block as wide. And it also didn't block as straight because I didn't care. So the main color throughout is Gourmet Stash Horcrux set that I spun. That was, that came in little batlings sort of things. And I spun each colorway separate and then chain plied them all together. So the colors are by themselves. The reddish color, it's kind of hard to see. There you go. The flower petal parts are very dark red. It is super hard to capture on any camera. It pretty much always reads black, but in person it's a really, really beautiful dark red. That is an alpaca silk that I spun, left as a single, and then knit 2 strands together because I didn't like the way that it looked as a 2-ply, but it was too thin to be used singly. And it really liked working side by side with itself, just not twisting on itself. And then the colorful sections are Zany Crafts fiber that I spun into a true 3-ply, and I did it as a fractal spin. I could not be more pleased with how this turned out. I will admit that when I pulled the colors, I definitely loved the Gourmet Stash and the dark red and black together because, hello. It's just, I can't help who I am, and I won't apologize for that. But then there was the Zany Crafts, and I was like, this is like springtime vomit, basically. Just like pinks and pastels and yellow, and I think it looks so beautiful with like mixed up with the black. And I will put it on for you. So there it is. Oh my gosh. I am so in love with it. I think it's so cute. I'm taking this to the ZK. I'm hoping it's super frigid in the conference rooms as it normally is. So look at how beautiful it is. I'm just in love with it. I think it's so, so cute. I can't get enough. So the pattern will be released before, well, the pattern is already available for purchase on Ravelry, but the final pattern will be released before I go to the ZK. I was just waiting to be able to take pictures, and it is finally, even the inside looks pretty. It's finally nice enough out that I can take pictures. Yeah. There you go. You can see the red now, but it is definitely too hot to wear it right now. And the winner will be announced next podcast. I wonder who it's going to be. I have 2 finished objects that I don't have here. One is the trough, which is another design by me, and I don't even have any finished object pictures because I took it on vacation and it got left in the trunk. And then I wore it the last day we were there because I brought this little knitted fabric cardigan, not like knitted, like machine, you know what I'm saying. But someone knocked it amongst the shoes the night before we left, so in the morning it just smelled like feet. And it was chilly, so I grabbed the trough and I wore that instead so that I wouldn't freeze. And so I have a little video footage of me wearing it and some pictures of me wearing it, but no pictures of just the full trough, the full effect. Do you believe me that I did it though? I did finish it. And it is now with my sister, who was supposed to give it to my niece. I don't know if she did or not. And I've been asking all week for, okay, let's be fair, it's only been 3 days, for photos of my niece in the poncho in trough, but I haven't received them. So I can't show you a full finished thing. If I get a photo from her, I will try to remember to insert it in next week's episode, but I can't promise that. And then the other finished object I do have pictures of. I finished the Eloise girl sweater, which is designed by Moogly, and that project, you guys, it was something else. So Trough didn't have any more snafus after the one that I told you about last week, and that was made with Cascade Heritage yarns. Started out in a size 5 because that's what I grabbed, and then after the center portion, I changed to size 3s, as was called for in the pattern. So the sweater, I crocheted it using Caron 1 pound in the midnight blue color, and I used a size J hook. It took a very good portion of that 1 pound of yarn. I think, you know what, the exact grams and yardage is on my Ravelry page, so if you're interested, it's there. So the saga of this sweater, I feel like it's taken forever for something that is for an 8-year-old. It's so super cute though. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've put up the pictures, and if not, bam, here are the pictures. Look at how cute my daughter is in this sweater. It's ridiculous. If I didn't have boobs and a stomach and hips, I would wear that dress, that jacket dress. But I have all of those features, and that would make me feel awkward. If you have boobs and a stomach and hips and you want to wear the dress though, I will not at all judge you. I am just, let's go on a side path. So my mom, when we were little, one of the things that she would say to us was, "I'm so glad you got my figure. I hope you never get fat like your dad's side of the family." Which means that I sometimes love my curves and sometimes really, really hate my curves. So I feel like that dress would just make me hate my curves instead of loving them. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, this sweater. Okay, so the sweater it took a long time for a reason. I used a stitch that I have not actually made a project out of before. You can just use double crochet throughout, not completely throughout. It utilizes double crochet, half double crochet, single, and slip stitches, and a couple decrease stitches. So that's what I used when I made the baby sweater, a couple months ago. But then in the pattern notes for the girl's sweater, it recommends using, I think they're called connected double crochets. So what you do is, if you're a crocheter, hopefully this makes sense. If you don't crochet at all, this isn't going to make any sense. Sorry. So what you do is you have your hook getting ready to make a double crochet. And normally for a double crochet, you would have your 1 loop on your hook, and you would yarn over, go into the stitch you're working into, pull up that yarn over to have a loop. So now there's a loop, a yarn over, and another loop. So you bring the yarn over the hook and pull it through 2 of those. So then you have 2 loops on the hook, and then you yarn over and pull through both of those loops. With the connected double crochet, you have your 1 loop on your hook, and then instead of bringing the yarn over to make that middle loop, you take the hook, you put it, there's a bump on the side of double crochets. You put the hook through that bump and pull up a loop. And then you go into the next stitch along like the bottom of your stitches, the bottom of the row. You put your hook in where you would normally put it in to make a double crochet. You bring the yarn over, you bring the loop through. So then you have 3 loops on your hook. That extra step of pulling up the loop from the side of the double crochet took so long. It took me such a long time. But the reason I did it is because it makes a much more dense fabric, and if you have made something with a lot of weight out of double crochet, you know that those stitches tend to stretch with the weight of the project. And this connecting stops it from doing that. So my daughter is always cold because she's like, this big around. And so I wanted something that was dense, that wouldn't let wind through, and also wouldn't lose its shape very quickly. So I did the connected double crochets throughout. In the skirt, there's little short row sections, which in the baby dress were a different color. But in my daughter's dress, it was all the same color. So in that, I didn't connect the double crochets. I just crocheted them as they came. But for every other portion of the double crochets, I connected them. I don't think I connected the double crochets on the sleeves. But maybe, but I don't think so. I think I decided it would be fine if the sleeves stretched and if they weren't as dense. Mostly because I was done with that sweater. So I did all that. I did not follow the instructions for the buttonholes. I just did, I chained those buttonholes and then single crocheted back and across the chains to make them. And you know how one of the great things about making your own clothing is that you can customize them to your body? For this sweater, I'm going off of memory, but I did just read my notes like an hour ago. So I used the cast on, or I'm going to say cast on, because there's not really a good term for like the number you chain. So the cast on for the size 2-3T or size 4. No, I remember it's size 4 to 6 for the cast on for how long the skirt was going to be. Because my gauge does not match the gauge in pattern. I'm not sure how that gauge was achieved, but I can't do it. So I cast on that, and then I worked as many as were needed for the size 2-3T, as many wedges for that. And then I picked up the number of stitches for the 2T. That's just how it worked out. I didn't plan to make it a smaller circumference, but again, I don't know how that number of stitches was picked up, because that's not how it worked for me. I thought I was picking them up logically, and it turned out fine for my daughter. So then I worked 6 or 7 rounds, because you work the skirt back and forth and then you turn it. It's a free pattern. I feel like I'm giving away too much of the secret sauce, but you work the skirt, you know, from here to here, and then you turn it 90 degrees, and then you pick up along that edge, and then you work the yoke from the bottom up. So I did like 6 or 7 rows of the double crochet, the connected double crochet for the yoke before I started the armhole decreases. And then I used the pattern instruction for probably, I think, the 2T again for the decrease. No, that's not right. Whatever the second from largest size of the baby pattern is. So maybe 2T, maybe 3T for the decrease numbers. And then I just made the sleeves as long as they needed to be to fit her. Yeah, that was a lot of mishmashing of sizes, but that's what I needed in order to fit my very tall, very thin daughter. So the sleeves fit perfectly, and then the top has, like, I'm wearing a black shirt and a black cardigan. This is my life. This is how I always do. Okay, I'm gonna construct myself a less dark background so I can show you what I'm talking about. So her sweater, so this is the under, so you can see my cardigan. So it crosses to here on the one side, but then the other side crosses all the way over to here. So that's like a whole sock over here, okay? It has probably 3.5 inches of overlap on the chest, and I put the buttons so that it would be closed all the way. And my plan is next winter, when she's a little bit bigger, because she does grow in in height and circumference every year. It's always a small circumference. So as she gets bigger, I will be able to move those buttons over so that she can wear the sweater for as long as possible. And I'll be able to just lengthen the sleeves because the sleeves are not tight on her arms. They're like a comfortable fit. So I'm hoping she'll be able to wear that for a few years before she can't wear it anymore. And she really, really likes it because it's a sweater and it has sleeves and it's a dress and it's all of the things she wanted in a sweater. So totally worth the aggravation of doing that extra step in the double crochets. And I would totally do it again. If I were to make a crocheted garment for myself, that is likely the stitch that I would use. If I make my son a sweater again, I'll probably use that stitch because it makes a dunce fabric. So it's a very useful stitch and I'm glad I learned it. I just did not love the using of it. Let's talk about finished objects I can actually show you in person, and I just gave you a sneak peek of one of them. So these are Scraposaurus socks, patterned by me, yarn by Cattails. So now I'll be able to actually show you the colors that I was trying to show you. Black Aja did not make it in here, but we have red Aja, and then gray, blue, green, and then white, yellow, brown. So that is what those colors look like, not in the shawl, and fading from one to another. I love the way these socks turned out. I think they are so cool looking. Totally worth the effort of fading them a little bit. So look at how cute they are. And it's a really simple pattern because it's mostly vanilla with just like some striping instructions. So it works up really, really fast. I don't have anything else to say about those socks. Next finished object is this. This is Zany Crafts. I finished spinning the the fiber that I said that I might need to spin to finish out my chaotic neutral, I didn't need to finish that portion. But I wanted to spin, so I finished spinning that portion, and then I finished plying that yarn together. So this is 172 yards of a 3-ply fractal. And I don't know what this is going to be. I am seriously considering taking some of my hand spun to the ZK to trade or sell, because I make hand spun. That's not a very pretty wind up job. Hold on. I make hand spun and then I don't usually use it. I have some hand spun skeins that have been sitting in my stash for a very, very long time. And so this is what the Zany Crafts yarn looks like that I used in my chaotic neutral, that I was like, I don't know about this, because it looks like this. I mean, it's pretty. It's really girly and would look great for little girl things, but clearly not my aesthetic. So I don't know. I don't know what this skein wants to do with its life. It's pretty. It's just, yeah, it's not for me, is all that it is. But it is really nice. I do have about half of the fiber then left over to still spin and ply. My plan is to spin the one half of it as straight from the braid and then spin the other portion of it from the little fractals. So it'll be, it would be a 2-ply fractal, but it would be like a laceway 2-ply fractal. So I think I'm actually going to cable ply it, which I don't think I've done before, which is where you take 2 2-plies and then you ply those two together. So I'm going to try that. And hopefully that's really cool and turns out beautiful instead of a muddied mess, which this could turn into if you had too much going on. Right now it just looks like Easter. I think that's everything that I finished. Oh no, I did a second Orion beanie, but I don't have it to show you because I already gave it to my sister. It looks almost identical to this, except I did something different because hers is 3 grams less than mine. And so the pooling is a little different, but it basically looks just like this. And I have been wearing mine all over the place. I made mine, just in case you're wondering, this is a free pattern. It's by Kalisha Ryan. It is, I did the largest size, but with a much smaller hook than is called for in the pattern because I was using a much smaller yarn. That will be linked below though, so you can find that. And then works in progress. So as I was talking to you about the sweater and stuff, I was working on this. This is the second pair of Scraposaurus socks that I cast on at the beginning of the month. And this is the second sock. I've had the first sock done forever. So there's the first sock. Oh, let me show you. I was talking last time about how I was doing the color change in a different place. So on here you can clearly see where I changed the color. On here, both sides look lovely because the color change is on the back where no one will ever see it. Can you see it? A little bit? You can see it just a little tiny bit, but it's on the back and the bottom of the feet. So I might maybe go back to the pattern and change that in the pattern, or I might make a pattern note or something, because it just looks so much neater that way, and it's not a difficult thing to do at all. It's just changing where the beginning of the round is. So, which for me on a 60 stitch sock just meant shifting the beginning of the round 15 stitches. Not a big deal at all. So yeah, that's the first one. Here is the second one. As you can see, I am getting pretty close to finished. I'll be taking this with me to hockey. So, you know, I can probably get to here in the time it takes to do hockey. So hoping that sock is done tomorrow by the end of the month, which would be really, really nice. I like to have things finished at the ends of the month. And then I have two other works in progress. One which is more of a focus than the other. So I'll talk about the focus one first. When I went on the field trip with my son, I'd gone to Tuesday morning, the store with my sister, the day before, and I picked up this skein of yarn. Well, I guess this skein of yarn, which is Wisdom Yarns Pros. It's a nylon wool blend, fingering weight, and these are kind of, they reminded me of the Detroit Tigers logo, or like team colors. So I was like, oh, I'll take that to work on. I got almost all the way down the leg of this sock on the field trip. Yeah, it was a really, really long day. Super long. So these are, they come just below my son's kneecap because I wanted to make him like souvenir socks. And they are, they fit me as like longer calf length socks. So when he outgrows them, because I'm sure his foot size is going to be much bigger than mine someday. So this is the first sock. It's just a, nothing fancy. It's 60 stitches cast on, 2x2 rib all the way down. And that fits his leg fine. It doesn't get too tight on him. It's not too tight on my calf either. So the 2x2 rib is magic. And then just a plain vanilla foot because I worked on the foot at a movie. It's got a fish lips kiss heel. I did decrease down to 56 stitches for the foot, not intentionally. I worked the fish lips kiss heel. I don't remember. I must have been doing something while I was working on that because I realized that I dropped a stitch and I was like, okay, that's fine. So not that you can see it, but I fixed that just by like weaving in the end. And then something else happened and the stitch got messed up. And I was on the second half of the heel and I was like, do I really need to rip back or can I just like patch that when I'm done? I opted for patching it. Well, somehow that lost me 4 stitches in the circumference and I was like, it's fine. I don't really care. If it gets a hole or something weird happens when he's wearing it, I'll just patch it. Could I have ripped it out and just worked the heel? Yes. But I didn't want to. So it's 56 stitches instead of 60 stitches like the leg is. And when I get to the foot on the second sock, I will just decrease those stitches out. Or I will just drop stitches and make a mess in the heel and it'll be 56 stitches. And then it's got my favorite like rounded, it's not a rounded toe. I don't do a rounded toe. It's got like a fat toe. I don't know how to explain it. It's wide, it's squat. It's the way that I like to do my toes because that's how my toes are shaped. So that is the second, or the first sock, and here is the second sock. So I am, what is that? More than halfway up the leg. That's only 5 stripes to go. I think it's 6 stripes and a repeat. So less than a repeat to go of the color. So that's exciting. I don't think this will be done by tomorrow. That would be, I would have to knit a lot. And I have not been knitting a lot. I've been knitting, but not a lot. So that seems unlikely to be done by tomorrow, but I'll do what I can. And then the last work in progress I have, oh, you know what? I have another one. I have a tree skirt, crimson tree skirt. It is, all of the panels are crocheted and it is half put together. that I could finish by tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to finish this sock and that by tomorrow, and then I will work on these other 2 pairs of socks. But yesterday I cast on, I've been really wanting to cast on something a little complicated, something I have to kind of pay attention to, refer to a pattern, do something, some patterning, because most of what I've been working on has been like super mindless. Even the chaotic neutral became pretty mindless because that flower section is really simple. There's only 2 rows of that where you kind of have to like pay attention and count and stuff. And then the ones where you switch the mini skein sections, those are also really simple. So they're mindless. So I kind of want something mindful. And I decided to do a cookie A pattern because cookie A gives me life in my knitting when I'm feeling a little stagnant. And I don't know how to pronounce the pattern. In my head, it's hippopotamus. Starts with a P. It's like pomatomus or something. I don't know. I could probably look it up. And maybe I will next time because I feel really rude for not having looked it up this time. But in my head, they're the hippopotamus socks. They're a free pattern on Knitty. And I am making them for my sister out of this, which is a BFL sock yarn. And I don't want to pull it all the way out of the middle. Do I have to pull it out? It's a Dream in Color BFL sock. I don't know the colorway. It's purple. It's my sister's colors. I've never made her BFL socks. I've only made a few pair of BFL socks and I like them. This is giving me everything I asked for. It is an all over pattern on the leg of the sock. It is twisted rib all the way down, so I can only work on it a little bit before my hands are like, okay, we're done. I have to refer. I don't currently have to refer to the pattern for every round because it's intuitive, but I also like to refer to the pattern when I'm picking up the project for the first time that day, which, it's only been 2 days, so. I like that about Cookie A's patterns, that my brain understands how they work, so I don't have to look every round, but I still have to reference it every once in a while. So it's barely, I've maybe 6 rounds into the actual pattern past the cuff. This is a 72 stitch sock. And I usually knit 60 stitches for my sister. So I cast it on and I was working on it. And I was like, this is huge. I don't like it. And I was like, do you hate it? Would you wear this? She's like, I wear slouchy socks. That's fine. So they're just going to be slouchy and I will decrease it down to 60 stitches for the foot and it will be fine. So there will be a little pattern manipulation. I already know how I'm going to do it on the foot, so I'm not that worried about it. But it's really pretty, and I don't have a deadline for this, much like most of my sister's projects. So while we're talking about that, the deadline for the ZK knit along is January 10th. So I will be trying to finish up a couple more things, not this sock, but everything else that I have as a work in progress, I'm going to attempt to finish up by then. And I mean, maybe the sock, but more likely I'll cast on something else and try to finish that in the next 10 days. And then I am planning on taking my sister's Ridgeback socks, and I'm planning on casting on another pair of Ridgeback socks to take with me because I just, first of all, it's a really cool pattern. I really, really like the finished object. I think it's super, super cool. And the knit along will be over. So I'll finish my sister's Ridgeback, and then I'll have another pair of Ridgeback socks. And then that's all that I'm planning to take to the ZK, because Haley is bringing, that's all I'm planning to take project wise. Haley is bringing a big box of minis for me. So I will be also knitting on some mitered squares and maybe crocheting some flower motifs for my daughter's blanket. And that's my plan. Yeah, that's what I'm bringing. Hold me to it, because I don't want my carry-on to be too heavy, because I don't want to check any luggage. um, and then when I get back from the ZK, then I will resurrect my languishing whips and UFOs so that, you know, they can actually be a thing before the end of the year. Yeah, so in June, I will finish my sister's Ridgeback socks and maybe the Zipper Laxagon socks in June. I will pull out tripartite to work on. I'm not making any promises on when that will be finished, but I will pull it out because it is really, really boring knitting. So it will be good for when we go to the fireworks and I can't actually see what I'm knitting on because it's dark. Or if we're going on a couple different car trips, so I can knit on it in the car. I can take it to knit group and knit on it there because, you know, I'll be distracted. And ridge by ridge, that sweater will be finished eventually. And then I have a handful of other projects that I started before the beginning of the year that were just put aside because the knit along happened. So I'll be resurrecting some of those. And my list of things that I wanted to make this year is almost crossed off. I talked about that in a vlog at the beginning of the month. So there are still a few things on there, but not very many. And of course, right after I get back from this, or before I go to the ZK, actually, all the small things will kick off. So all of the modular projects I have going, those I'll pick up those with fervor for the whole summer, because anything that you finish counts. So a sock, a sweater, a square on a mitered square blanket, a sample spin, a tiny Christmas ornament, anything counts. I will count knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, cross stitch, and sewing for that. Just post to the Ravelry thread. You can post as many things in one post as you want. So like as many things as you finish. If you do 10 squares in a time period and just want to put all those 10 in the post, perfect. Put how many items you have finished at the bottom of the post, just so it's really quick and easy for me to see how many things are in the post, because otherwise I'm counting, and if you're putting in 17 squares, which people have done before, I might not count 17. I might only count 15. And I would hate for you to not get credit for your work. So I'm super excited for that. That's really my plan for the summer, is to knock out a ton of modular knitting and then pick up the UFOs. So yeah, it will be very different from the podcasts of the beginning of the year where I was finishing a bajillion socks. So if you're tired of seeing socks, new things are coming up. Okay, I'm rambling and I have to get ready to go pick up my son from the school so I can take him to hockey. So I'm going to say bye, and I will do my very, very best to see you next week. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. Come tell me things in the comments below. I want to hear about what you're working on. I want to hear your opinions on my upcoming plans. or if you have suggestions for things, or if you think that my plan right now to only bring 2 projects to the ZK is silly and ridiculous, and you know that I'm going to pack way more, you're probably right. But I'm going to try to stick to that. So yeah, come talk to me. Come chat with me down below, or send me an Instagram message or something on Ravelry. Okay, I really have to go. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.